Hello and welcome. Today is another session or this week is another session of Walking with Grief. And I am going to have a guest on, I was going to say Father. Sean, amazing, right? I'm calling you already a priest. Is there something in that's going to happen later on that neither one of us knows? Are we getting guided? Deacon Sean. I'm actually keeping this in the recording in the aspect of it because this is live. And when we're doing live podcasts, yeah, we're sometimes not going to be all polished. And I prefer to have unpolished versions. This is one of the reasons why it's called unscripted, because grief is also unscripted. So I want to welcome everyone to Walking with Grief. And I'm going to introduce my guest, Deacon Sean Dooley, who is a bereaved parent like myself and is going to share his story, his journey. Because as a bereaved parent, our stories are all unique. They are different. In some aspects, there will be similarities that are going to be overlapping. On the most part, as I've shared, is our grief journeys are unique as our fingerprints, and so are our relationships. Deacon Sean, welcome. So glad for you to be here.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for inviting me. Today I wanted to talk about my daughter, Erin, uh, and it goes back several years to kind of lead up to uh, my journey. In 1996, my daughter, Erin, was in the hospital during Labor Day weekend of 1996. My wife and I were out of town, my wife, Kathy, and we were called by the hospital uh, to come to the hospital and get our family members together because all her systems were shutting down. And we got to the hospital in the ICU, and they basically told us that again that all her systems were shutting down, and her heart was at only 20% of its capacity, and that if she were to survive, it would not regain any of its capacity. Well, 4 months in the hospital, and then another 7 months in our house on home health care, pulling a roller with a bag on it. And she had several ports, one for the medicine, one to feed her in her stomach. Uh, and she had that in the house for 7 months. And all those ports came out. And we got her back for 24 more years. She was diagnosed with lupus in 2014, when she was 14, excuse me. In 96, she was 21. And in 2017, when my wife was in her last hospital stay, my daughter Erin came over to the house and she was not feeling good and she did not look good. And I called the EMS and they took her to the same hospital and she was above her mother, the floor above her mother at the same hospital. And she got something new called AFib. And 3 years later, that's uh, what took her. Uh, Two of the risks associated with AFib is either stroke or heart attack, and she had a massive heart attack while sitting on the floor talking with her husband, Michael. Her last words were, "Oh, Michael, oh my God," and her eyes rolled in the back of her head. And Michael called me on the phone, cell phone, and the police were already there, the EMTs, and it's San Antonio. The police, if someone dies at home, the police come along with the medical examiner and the coroner. So I'm listening to the EMTs uh, work work their magic, and I finally hear the machine uh, flatline after 40 minutes. And I'm hollering. Michael left the phone on the bed, and the police were talking to him. And I'm hollering, "Oh, did you call it? Did you call it? Did you?" And he finally heard me. They didn't know the EMTs didn't know I was there, and they picked up the phone, and I asked him, "Did you call it?" He said, "Yes, 5:45 p.m., February 18th, 2021." So I called my son, and he met me over at their house, and they were having a gathering. Um, and I found out while I was there, uh, while we're waiting for the coroner to show up, I was talking to some of her friends, and one of them told me that Michael had got good news the day before, uh, that he'd been accepted into a school. And in that instant, I knew that my daughter Erin's mission was complete on this earth. Do I miss her? Yes, most definitely. Her daughter, Trinity, lives with me now, and I wasn't going to take Trinity out of her high school for her last year of high school because I was planning to move to the coast, but I came back home here in San Antonio, and she finished high school, and she was grieving in her own way, and but in September 23, she on her own, and I'm very proud of her. She registered for college, and she found her own therapist. I mean, I offered some that I knew, but sometimes Papa, isn't always right. Um, but I'll always remember my daughter as a toddler holding the barbecue tongs in our first house in the carport while I was barbecuing, and she'd be helping me barbecue. And I know,
Sean, thank you so much for sharing Erin's journey with the audience because it is so important to share the stories of our children, of what their experience was. And even as you said, your daughter was 14. Erin was 14 when she was diagnosed with lupus. And then all those years afterwards. And one of the things, because in some aspects, you and I have some sort of similarities, a shared aspect of both our children when they were younger, as teenagers, got diagnosed with an illness. And one of the things that at the time I didn't realize that that was a form of grief also. Because all of a sudden you're dealt with something as a parent, we sort of want to protect our children. And so we take that burden of their illness on top of us to make their life as normal as possible. And I'm going to use normal as the quotation marks. And it's one of those aspects of we don't see the layers of stress and tension that we're carrying on our shoulders. One of the things that I had noticed after my son passed away was how my body all of a sudden just couldn't, just basically went numb. For so many years you carry everything, and then all of a sudden you're not carrying that anymore. Your body kind of goes, okay, I've had it. Like I'm shutting down. Did you find that your body shut down, or did you find that there were still aspects that you had to keep going and you still haven't had that chance to sort of say, my body hasn't been able to exhale?
that's a good point. That's why I'm here today, because my body hadn't had that opportunity to exhale yet. Because I think I was still grieving my wife, uh, who passed 3 years before Aaron did. And I wasn't real clear on the dates, and I apologize for that. But Aaron had lupus for 31 years,
Mm.
and she died a week before, exactly a week before her 46th birthday, in 21. Uh, but yeah, it's stunned. uh, shock. Uh, no, yeah, there's more I have to do, and the anticipatory grief, which I didn't know even in 1989 or 1996. Uh, yeah, I didn't know that term, but I felt it, like you said, because because it could happen at any time. You never know.
And that's the fear also too of parents. I mean, I know I've shared that my son had an incurable cancer that he lived with for 11 years. And that's part of the fear that as a parent we live with. We may not show it to the world. It's underneath that surface where you're waiting for what's going to happen next. When, and especially if you've dealt with hospital rooms, treatments, the chaos, the crises after crises, I always go, part of it is that we live in fear and we live in faith. Faith, because I know you and I have talked about it, we've both had miracles. And so at times, these miracles become, okay, when am I getting my next one? It becomes like, okay, this is my miracle turn. And I
Yeah,
don't know if you kind of, I mean, considering that it was 31 years, uh, that roller coaster of fear and faith together for 31 years.
I don't want to sound crass or morbid or anything, but I've written it. The way I put it was, I watched uh, my daughter die day by day,
Mm,
hospital visit by hospital visit, doctor visit by doctor visit. Uh, each day it seemed like something new had cropped up, like the prednisone, which was a control agent for whenever the lupus would flare up. Well, that took its toll on Aaron because she got one of the side effects. She
mm,
became legally blind in 2011, so she couldn't drive anymore, and she was lamenting about how she would not be able to see um, to brush her daughter's long, luxurious, curly brown hair.
mm.
And not too not too long before she passed, she actually said, "I can see it, Daddy, because I can feel it." Sorry.
And I can see the hurt. And that's the aspect that I find as a bereaved parent. And I'm going to put in, you and I are both certified grief educators. We both took the education from David Kessler. Myself personally, I took it so that way I could be a support and a coach for others as a bereaved parent in acknowledging what they were experiencing, what another parent is experiencing. And because of our timelines, in the sense of the years, the decades, the support that was out there then is a bit different than what it is now. We're still grief illiterate. I know I still have people that keep saying, oh, Maria, like, when they're getting over it. Maybe not as much as that, but they come up to me and kind of go, oh, there's a timeline, the 5 stages. And I'm going, no, there isn't. I just had someone coming up to me recently and going, she thought about me because she had heard somewhere on a podcast that we don't get over grief. And I'm like, yeah, it's exactly what I share about. Uh, and it seemed like it was new to her. And and it's so true. These are the reasons for podcasts like myself, Walking with Grief, why we're out there is to educate, to share our stories for one. And Sean, I really do. I thank you for sharing your story and that of Aaron, because it really shows me who your daughter was. Actually, it shows me who you are, because your daughter got parts of your DNA in her.
Yeah.
And so it actually does a double aspect of I get to see your daughter through you. And it is beautiful when we get to share their stories of how they lived, even how they died.
Well, thank you, Maria. I I too, like you said, went through the grief educator program, and that's what was because I wanted to enhance my capabilities and capacities in helping others in their grief journey, whether it's with David Kester's program, and I intend to offer one-on-ones after this. I currently support two bereavement programs. One is for those who have lost their loved ones, be it a spouse, child, grandparent, parent, sibling, cousin, best friend. And another one is for those who have lost a spousal relationship, either through death, divorce, or separation. Um, and that's why I went through the grief educator program to help me help others. That's my calling.
Hmm. And it is so true. One of the aspects about being a grief educator is none of us, when we were in our younger years, had imagined this is where we were going to be. And it is a calling. And I know you and I share the same faith. In I always go, it was for me, it was my faith that led me here. It was God that had sort of said, this is where you're supposed to be. This is what I have envisioned of where you're supposed to be, and supporting others and helping others. And I know that that's a calling for you. Two things that already say that. One, you have a deacon title in front of your name. So that already shows that you are a person of faith and of being a support and offering help. And also as a widower and a bereaved parent.
And a bereaved sibling and four friends I'm grieving.
Mm.
One who died by suicide, my best friend from high school.
And I thank you for sharing that, because a lot of times, I know personally, I kind of went after my son died, and then my father died 6 months later. And you're right, we've all had more than one loss in our lives. And at times, I don't know, I used to say, okay, can we stop now? Can, right? Have I not had enough of loss? Unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. You and I both know that. And we are here at different aspects of our journeys. And one of it is holding on to the hope that our lives we are living fully, being fully present. I know my teachings or my offerings carry love and loss in the same breath. I firmly believe that we breathe it. And I know we've had discussions where even though you may be a person of faith, there is that aspect of missing our loved ones, their physical presence, hearing their voice, seeing their smile, hearing their laughter, being able to pick up the phone and wanting to talk to them. Um, and I and I know one of these days, as I expand, I'll have you again as a guest, and we'll talk the other aspects of being a widower. Because again, there are nuances that are different than as a bereaved parent. And
Yes.
and sometimes what I found is at times the losses can get sort of muddled in together. All our losses that we've had in our childhood, as young adults, and even later on, can at times be muddled. And I remember David Kessler once had said, when you have multiple losses, give each one of them their moment. So that way we can honor that one person at the time. And sometimes I find as a bereaved parent, there is something about your child because that DNA is part of us. And it's not to take away from your wife. And I know, I shouldn't say I know, I believe your wife, Kathy, would be okay that we're talking about your daughter, Erin,
Yeah, yes, she is.
right? She's not going to get upset with me.
No,
And that's so tell me something about Erin. What did you like? Or what's one, besides the memory of the barbecue, what did you find was one aspect, her sense of humor, her outlook in life? I mean, definitely she had to have a great outlook if she lived with lupus for 31 years.
she, yeah, she was great because she had my sense of humor. The poor thing had, I mean, she had the looks of her mother, but unfortunately, she got my ears and my feet, uh, um, and her grandpa's chin. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, she had a sense of humor, and she was a caregiver of sorts for others around her.
Hmm.
People gravitated to her, and they were amazed at her resilience in her condition. She was loving them to hope,
Hmm.
and they were amazed at that. And they came through her house all the time, from everywhere,
Hmm.
and she would preach to them. One of the nicknames they gave her, and I believe it was because she knew she may not have may not have ample time, is they
Hmm.
called her sugar free because she told the truth. She was straightforward. And,
I was going
and
to
so,
ask you about that when you said sugar-free, whether it meant that she was direct, unapologetic, and told you how it was.
yeah,
I love that. She definitely sounded that she she knew where she was going, and it's loosely termed in the sense of she was strong-minded, strong opinions, and wasn't going to be swayed by what someone else thought.
yeah. And of
Sounds
course,
like,
I recently, I mean, I basically found that out after she passed about the nickname sugar free, but I got it.
yeah. And that's one of the aspects that I always find is that with our children, there's different sides to them. Or we see them as a parent. When they're in a relationship with a significant other, they are seen in one way, their friends see them in another way. And when they have children, their children see them in a different light. And it's all to do with their personalities, right? Even though we have the same personality, it's going to it's going to be seen different by different people. And having others come up and share stories about our child, no matter how old, is so precious.
Yeah. And I wish they would have told me that before I had the uh,
Mm.
the headstone made, because
Ah,
I would have put that on
and I guess it can't really be added on in a different
there.
way.
I get well. I was looking at that the other day,
Mm.
and it's pretty crowded because everybody got to put their names. I mean, Michael got to put what he called her, and of course, Trendy, the best mama ever,
Hmm.
and mine was my baby girl.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see any room for sugar free, but yeah,
And,
That would,
right, it might be something that she wanted you to know afterwards rather than
yeah,
before.
yeah. But she was pretty direct, so I knew, got it right away.
And that is, and I know one of the aspects is that when we're getting back to the missing aspect, is that have you noticed that your grief has shifted within these 5 years, or has it remained constant?
It's shifted. Um, uh, but you mentioned presence, and I feel both.
Mm.
I feel her presence here. I mean, I've not I don't want to get too mystic, uh, but I have heard her walking down the hall
Mm.
because she had a special. Oh, yeah, because because of the prednisone and the vasculitis and the neuropathy in her legs, and the bone infections she got in both her legs. She was she had needed assistance to walk.
Mm.
So there was a special uh, cadence to her walk. So I've heard that in our hallway.
Oh, okay. And there is, and definitely, I always go, and then I think on a different session, I'm going to have where people have signs, where they get signs from beyond the aspect. Because in some ways, I always go, you know what? As a human being, when we're here, we still want to have signs that say, Dad, I love you. Mom, I love you. Of something. I know I posted somewhere that I'm going, I don't know if I'm just clueless and I just miss them or if I don't. But I've heard so many others that have said they have had signs and definitely want to have it. But as we're ending, Sean, I want to say thank you so much for being my guest. It has been an honor, and I'm so appreciative that you said yes to be here to share your story and to share parts of you and your daughter.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, Maria.
It's okay, my name is kind of, but I do. It's an aspect, and that's what I'd like to share with the audience is that when we're in grief, many of us feel so alone and isolated. And there are people like myself, like Deacon Sean, who, by the way, you're in Texas,
Yes.
right? Needed to point that out. And it's because of our own journeys that we know we've experienced it so that we can help others. For me personally, I was in 10 years that I'd say I was the walking dead. I was in limbo. This is one of the reasons because I never want anyone else to have 10 years where their life is a blur. And it is isolating when we're in grief. You and I both know that, Sean. Uh, and this is the reason that we became certified grief educators to help others. And I definitely want to ask the audience if anything here resonates, reach out to either Deacon Sean or to myself. And of course, subscribe. So that way you're going to hear more conversations on walking with grief. And I thank you so much for being here and for listening.